Welcome, everyone, back to the Divine Feminine Healers podcast. I'm really excited to get into this conversation with abundance and mindset coach Petia today. Thank you so much for being here. And one of my first questions that I ask all of my guests, because I just simply love the Divine Feminine and how she uniquely expresses herself in each one of us. So I'd love to hear from you. How do you connect to the Divine Feminine?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. What an honor. I love what you have created and the beautiful space that you have created here in the podcast. And for me, how the divine feminine expresses, I feel like for me, it's through like a sacred process. When I create the sacred path so she can be expressed, and then it's really very intuitive. And for me, it always starts at the beginning of the day. Like I don't do anything before like 11 a.m. So I make sure that I'm in my flow. And then in that flow, I always ask myself, like, what do I need? What do I get to experience today? What do I get to see? And then I just, whether it's yoga, whether it's stretching, whether it's dancing, whether it's connecting with the water. My husband calls me mermolphin. I just love water. It's like mermaid and
Yes.
dolphin in one. So I feel like the feminine really gets awakened in like the bodies of water. So, we live close to the beach or like waterfalls. Now we're in the middle of the desert. So I'm usually sitting in my shower, like really reconnecting with the elements, whether I go outside, whether I connect with the nature, but I allow myself the luxuriousness and slowness and spaciousness, to like feel and be connected to the sensations and to my body.
Oh, I love that and resonate so hard with all of that. That's my schedule as well. Like until 11 a.m. it's like all me time and prepping. Like there's so much of a morning ritual that is just so my sacred time to really connect with myself. And like you said, I really do see that. If we were to get to like the core of divine feminine, it's trusting your own intuition. And before I'm going to start my day, especially you can relate as being a coach and being with other people's energies, I didn't need to be so clear of what mine own is. And that is such like a great boundary, but then like such an enjoyable time. Like my mornings are so sacred. Like no one and anything cannot take that away from me. I'll bite you.
Oh, I'm ask my husband now. It's like he wants to like discuss something like business because he wakes up at like 4 a.m.
Hmm.
So, like by 7 a.m. he's like all like businessy and stuff. It's like, no, 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 no. No, we'll talk later, So it's really creating these boundaries because we know, especially like you said, like being a coach, mentor, guide for others, you get to first guide yourself. You get to first like show yourself the way, and then you can bring others. So creating the space, it's non-negotiable. And the thing is that the way you will be feeling in the morning, it's going to determine what energy you're bringing into everything, into your coaching, into your projects, into your friends, family. Everything will get influenced by how you're feeling. So tapping into that femininity and the feeling, it's such a beautiful foundation. And then you can bring the masculine, then you can bring the, okay, who do we want to impact, what do we want to create, but it's coming from that grounded place of feminine versus wake up, grab your phone, grab your laptop, get into the masculine. It's so hard to get back into the feminine versus when we do it the other way around, and then the feminine feel held and supported, and you have so much more clarity of who you are and what you can create.
Definitely. And I also love your connection with the water element. I feel so akin to that. I'm a sun Cancer and a moon in Scorpio, and lately, like the sea salt baths, and I, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, we practice something called Abhyanga. I'm not sure you're aware of. Like oil massage is just like the most heavenly thing. Do you resonate with any of the water signs?
My sun sign, it's a Taurus, but my moon sign, it's Pisces. So I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And I have also like a lot of Scorpio signs,
Yeah.
in my planet. So it's interesting because I always loved water, but years and years ago, I'm like, well, I'm Taurus. Tauruses, they don't like water. What's happening, But then when you go deeper and you get into deeper understanding, you will see that like what elements are really influencing you and are really important to you.
Yeah. Oh, we're so similar. I have my rising is Taurus, and at least in Vedic astrology, we look at to see like what the planet is ruling it, and that's Venus, which is such a water-based planet. So that's cool to see how that all aligns there. So I want to hear a little bit more about your story as an abundance and light activator. How did you step into that role?
I love that question. And, the very easy, like, short answer would be I became the one that I needed on my journey. Because when I was growing up, there was a lot of scarcity, abuse, toxic relationships with others, with my body, with money. And I could not see the way out, but I felt inside that I know I'm meant for more. I didn't know what that more was, but throughout my journey, I realized that what I really needed is hope and nurturing and someone who can hold your hand, because it's so easy. Go on Google, go on YouTube, and you can find all the strategies you want. But someone who can really hold the space for you and see you and remind you who you are and who you came here to be, that was what I needed on my journey. And that's what I do with my clients, because I always tell them business strategies and how to create, affluence in your life. That's the cherry on the top. If you're not feeling fulfilled and abundant from within,
Mm,
it's not going to help. It's not going to change. So I had to become that embodiment of that myself first. And then I started to realize when you change, the things around you start to change. And the people around you start change. And the choices you're making are changing. And when you start rising, you have the deep desire, most of us, right? To show people, to tell people, to bring them with us. So first I had to become that. First I, experienced the darkness, and I created the light when, I felt like giving up.
mm. I love that so much. And it's so true. Like, we really have to see our challenges as like, this is given to me specifically for my soul path. The universe thought that I would be able to handle this. And it's actually the only way that I could really get into, if my goal is abundance in my life, to that. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about, you mentioned this scarcity mindset that you may have picked up, because oftentimes it's really that shadow that gets us into that light mode. So what specifically was that like depth of the challenge that you had to face in order to get you there?
I think that's such a fascinating question, because, like growing up, I didn't grow up in poverty, right? That's different than scarcity. But there was always this scarcity of feeling like I'm not enough, that no matter what do I do, it's never enough for those around me, for my stepfather, for, my family. And I was, physically and mentally abused. So that was like my proof, because if I would be like lovable, if I would be enough, if I would be good, then this wouldn't be happening to me. So that was like the start of that, the scarcity, to don't see love, to don't see care, to don't see like the worthiness. And I started to outsource my worthiness and outsource my happiness. And that led me into toxic relationships, really bad relationship with my body, to almost 2 decades of eating disorder, attempt of suicide, and like really going through all the dark points to be able to alchemize it. And it doesn't happen in a moment, but it happens when you keep going. I remember one time I saw a quote like many years ago, and it says, if you're going through the hell, keep going. And
Mm,
that's something that I had to be reminding myself, like, this is not my destination. This is temporary. With everything we're experiencing, this is temporary. So then you just like start expanding and giving yourself permission to take up the space. I feel like, especially as a woman, we feel bad taking up space, because when you think about it, the whole society is telling us you gotta be thin, you gotta be small, you gotta be lean, you cannot be heard, you can be seen but not heard, and things like that. So we are just like going and becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. So giving yourself permission to expand and be yourself, it's what is really important on our journey.
mm. Yeah, I love that so much, because when you are going through that challenge, it is important to even just recognize it. Like, how many of us just like really push it away because like we don't want to see it? Like, let's say it's something as like simple as like losing weight, and we're like, oh, like I don't even want to think about that, so I'm just going to put it on the shelf. And how much we do that with every other aspect of our life. And it's just that avoidance. But also when you think about it and come down to it, like, do my needs get met? Like, will I be able to have that and be nourished? Or am I, being over dramatic about these things? Am I whatever society told me, or whatever the conditioning is that I picked up around it? So I really love that switch. And I kind of want to hear, how do you continuously step into this vibration of abundance? Yeah, what are some of the tools that you have?
I love that question. And, there's just, when we say abundance, some people, they think right away money, right? Which is part of it. But I feel like the abundance, it's energy of joy and celebration. That's how I see that. It's a freedom, joy, and celebration. And stepping into that, I make sure that every single day, like me and my husband, we always like ask ourselves, what was the celebration this past hour? What was the win this past hour? So we keep like tuning into not the gap, not on what is missing, but what are we celebrating, what are we having, and that is like a big part of what we're doing. We also do weekly money dates, so we deepen our relationship with money, with for growth and expansion. And then nature, like that's non-negotiable for me, because no matter how you're feeling, when you get out into the nature, you're always deeply reminded how everything keeps growing, how everything keeps expanding, how there's more than enough of everything. You just gotta see that and look for that, because again, no matter what you're looking for, you're going to find it. So making sure there is a nature time, making sure there is a joy and celebration time, and then also like creating a dates with money. It's a big one for the financial part of aspect of that.
Yeah, there's a few things here I want to go into. The first one, I want to hear more about these money dates and what that looks like.
Absolutely. So, oh my goodness, I'm trying to like think back. When did we started with my husband? I feel like over 4 years now ago we started. And it was about reconnecting to the energy of money and the abundance, because when we met, like it was just like always chasing. And I personally was like treating money as a booty call, like now I want you, now I don't, now I want you, now I don't. And that's what it looked like in my income too. It was like up and down, up and down. And even though if I make bigger amounts of money, I would spend it even faster, because I didn't feel worthy of it. I didn't feel deserving. So we started to do weekly money dates, when not only we like track our income and investments, because you gotta know where the money is going, right? Like the money needs intention and it needs attention. So we started to intentionally like tracking that, but also we started to like write a letter to the money. We started to write our goals. What are our short-term goals, long-term goals? What are we doing with the money when we have more than enough? Like when you can do whatever you want, right? And that was such a beautiful connection to the possibilities. And it was amazing for me to see, because year after, when I look at what would I do when I have more than enough money, I've done all of the things on my list besides buying a house for my grandma, and then unfortunately she transitioned the next year. But um, it's such a beautiful way to make it as a date, because in the past I would be doing tracking, and I'm more of the flow versus tracking and strategies and planning. That's my husband. He thrives in that. That's why we are perfect together. But for me, it's more of the flow. So when we made it as a date, we made candles and cacao and essential oil. So it was literally like preparing for a date. You play some music, you set the tone.
Mm.
So it's not like, oh, I have to do this, like, and I don't want to deal with this, and I don't want to look at my numbers, and I don't want to really know where I am, because maybe it's worse than I think. But you are really being honest. And Angelica, when we started our money dates, I wasn't writing love letter, I was writing like forgiveness letter to the money. I say, I'm sorry I was ignoring you, I'm sorry I was disrespecting you, I'm sorry I was using you, I'm sorry I never like even care about you. And it was really just like forgiveness. And I say like, Thank you for being open to be here with me. Thank you for allowing me to grow. It was just really honest reflection of how I was treating money and what are my intentions. Because if somebody does to you something that doesn't feel good to you and they say like, I'm sorry, well, it's cool, but how we are going to make sure you're not going to do that again?
For
So
sure.
bringing in the intention and the commitment. So ever since, like, even when we are traveling, like we do it maybe bi-weekly now, we hired virtual CFO. So she's amazing, and she's like full of strategies but also spirituality. Like, it was just so perfect for us. So now we are expanding and we have a support, but when we started, it's for 4 years we were doing it alone. And it's so funny, like when there were times where like you're sick or you're traveling, we don't do the dates, and then when we do them, we could feel the spike of energy and also spike of the money. So I'm like, sometimes you forget what's working. It's like, okay, let's stick with what's working, what is expanding us. Let's double down on that.
Yeah, that practice is so powerful. And I love that you brought up like the honesty and the truth of what it is, because money really is just like that of it's a measurement of, okay, yeah, this is where we excelled in, or this is maybe where we fell short in. So it gives us hardcore evidence of where we're at and where we want to move forward. And it can be really fun. Like, I love that you make cacao and you make it a ritual, because it's really honoring that this is an energy that is something that can nourish us. It's not everything that can nourish us, but it certainly is important and needs to be respected. And I find that with a lot of women, they do have that kind of like detachment with money of like, I'm spiritual, like I don't care about money. Like there's so much deeper meaning to life than just money. At least that's been a huge part of my story too. And the truth is that we need money in order to nourish ourselves. We need money in order to take care of ourselves and to take care of our people and our business and all these things to live in the world. So how did you kind of change your relationship with money from going from sometimes I have it and I spend it all, then sometimes I don't? How did you be able to widen your container in order to hold it?
hmm I feel like it was really super helpful for me to like look at, well, first hardcore reality, right? Like taking radical responsibility and see where I am. And that wasn't nice, 5 years ago. But then also like stepping into the possibilities, because when spiritual people say that you don't need money, I think that's BS,
Yeah.
because I love investing money. Like I love puppies. So I invest in animal foundations. Like I'm the sucker who gets the email like, oh, Penny's not feeling well, or Penny has a rash and Petia is sending money. So now whoever is listening, like now but also like me and my husband, we send money regularly to Bali. There is a school for disadvantaged kids that we visited, 5 different schools, and there is over 30 schools now, and we were able to go there, teach their personal development English, and we love knowing that our money makes really difference.
Mhm.
So, like I'm spiritual and I'm also abundant because I can make more difference. It's like, I believe Abraham Hicks said it, like you cannot, become broke enough to help broke people. You cannot get sick enough to help sick people. You get to be well, you get to be abundant. And that's what I teach my clients. I activate the abundance in them so they can not only create generational healing, which is so important, but also world-changing abundance. I want women to have that more than enough money so we can tip the scales. So the great people, the spiritual people, the visionaries, the leaders, the light workers, the heart center entrepreneurs, they can invest in things and circulate the money. You know how different world would be if all of us who have the bigger vision for the better world would make more than enough money? Like how many sanctuaries and schools and things we would be able to create? Yeah.
Definitely. That is definitely the mindset shift of there's a bigger mission at hand here, and really needing to set aside the limiting beliefs of what's getting in your way of your ego idea of what money used to be, letting that go. And I really like that you talk about this balance of social responsibility, being radically honest of what is currently right now, because a lot of times I also think in the spiritual realm, it's being overly optimistic. It's thinking to believe that you're really abundant and I'll spend more money and then make more money, like silly things, right? But it really does have to be a balance, because we can get caught in this cycle of being upset with ourselves for not making enough money, for not being further in our journey, but at the same time, we can get caught in the other cycle of being jaded about we're not making the money that we need to be making, and then, pushing us to make changes. So how do you kind of balance between this of, yes, I'm in this abundant state of mind, I'm doing all these more positive things, but then I'm also being like pretty real with myself and more grounded in that?
I love that question. And I feel like it would depend on where exactly you are, like I feel like you get to really set your like top priorities. Like what is important to you? Because what is important to me might not be important to you. For me right now, like we're growing our family, we're growing our business. And so for that, we're calling in more abundance. So what was acceptable last year won't be acceptable this year. So for us, we get to look at what are our top priorities and how do we get there.
Mm.
So I feel like you said, like in a spiritual realm, when we are like, oh, I know big money is coming. And I know I will just, I will pray for it. I will meditate on it. It's coming. But then we don't take an inspired action. We don't want to do the work. And that's when I feel like the feminine and the masculine that's come together, they get to dance together. Like, yes, like be a dreamer and be in the flow. It's what I love doing. And also really ask yourself, where do I want to see myself 1 year from now? And, tapping into human design, like if you're a specific, manifester, then you would just say like very specific details. When do you want to be? How much money you want to make? How do you want to live? If you're non-specific, if it overwhelms you to think about details, just think about how do you want to feel? How do you want your life to look like? And you can be just a very general in that sense. But if you don't know where you're heading, you will never get there. And the time will be just passing and you will be just like being up and down, like, oh, I need another course and I need another class and I need another certification. But then you don't do anything about it to like embody it and really amplify your impact. Because when you up your value, when you grow, your abundance always grows when you allow yourself to do that. So I feel like it's so important to create this balance of masculine and feminine, allowing yourself to flow, but also having the clear vision and asking yourself, what is going to get me there? And even if you don't know exactly, well, what I'm willing to do for that? Am I willing to go out and meet people? Am I willing to show up on social media? Am I willing to start my podcast? Am I willing to join a mastermind? Like, what am I willing to do to get closer to my dream life versus just like, let me pray about it.
Mm.
Prayer, it's powerful and it's not everything.
Mm. Yeah, I think it really is getting caught between thinking that it has to be one way or the other. And like you said, it really has to be balancing and just being sure that you have a mix of both. And I think that a lot of times, at least I get clients who are really in this like one track mind and like, okay, let's do it. It has to be this way. And it's like, oh, then you get caught in the masculine. Or I get someone who is maybe more in the wounded feminine, who is on the other side of the spectrum and is, I don't want a routine and structure. I just want to be in the flow and I just want my intuition, which is beautiful. We do want that to flow, but it has to be in a strategic way where you're doing both and it's gonna look so different for each person, like you said. Yeah, that's why I love all these systems like human design and astrology so that we can really hone in on what our authentic self is and use that as leverage for our business so it can express itself. And I'm so curious, what is your human design type?
I'm a 5-1 generator, sacral.
Oh, I love that. Definitely get those generator vibes from you.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you?
I'm a 1-3 projector.
I knew that. My spiritual wife, she's a 1-3 projector.
Oh,
So I kind of felt it, but I love projectors, like because I am like anytime that I have any questions, my husband, it's a money Jenny 1-3, but anytime I have like any questions or I want to advise, I go to my spiritual wife because like I know the projectors, they see the better way. They're such a beautiful guides when we can see them and recognize them. It's so powerful.
yeah. Oh, I love all the questions. That's like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, because it makes you feel seen and it makes you feel
Sure.
recognized and it makes you feel like, wow, like what I get to share like really matters. So it's very life-giving.
Definitely. I'd love to hear what are your currents, because I know we change our relationship with abundance all the time. So what are some of those current practices that you have around abundance right now?
Mm. So for me, it's, like I mentioned, the money dates every single week. We do them with my husband. We also hire the CFO. So my abundance practice, it's like checking in with her.
Mhm.
And we started to do like some energetic work around like calling in more abundance in like visualizing my ideal client, because again, I'm specific manifestor in human design, so like really connecting to the soul of my soulmate clients. And also like journaling, scripting, and like I said, my morning routine, that's like the biggest abundance reminder, because like waking up without alarm and knowing you have a spacious morning, you can do whatever you want, and really tune in. That for me, it's like the ultimate abundance. The money in the bank account that is there, that it's amazing, and you can have the money and don't feel the abundance. So like really every single day celebrating us. So one thing that my husband does, which at this point is driving me a little bit crazy, he's so tech savvy. He created like a special alarm that it's like ching ching, like money, but it says 30K months, because that's what he's manifesting in a business, like consistent 30K months in his business. And it's funny because he has it every hour on an hour, his alarm. So it goes off. And sometimes we watch movies or we're cuddling or we're having lunch. And it's like all the time, like 30K months, 30K months. And if he doesn't turn it off, it goes on 15 minutes, So yeah, one time I let it go just to see how long it goes. I was like, oh my gosh. And it's like his voice, So I feel like those reminders are really powerful. I personally wouldn't do it every hour on the hour, but I've even like affirmations. I had affirmation on my phone, like success is inevitable. So like having those cues around you and seeing what is working for you. What I also love, it's like celebrating abundance. I bought, it's right here on my right side, like a huge calendar, and I write there like every single abundance that comes in, so I can see that, so I can celebrate it. And also we started to do like any single time that we get money, like we do like a happy dance with my husband, because our CFO, she's a little bit woo like us, and she was like, you get to like energetically tap into it like even deeper, not like, wow, yay, new client, like we always celebrate. But she was like, no, you gotta have a song, like a team song, and money coming in. So that's what we created with my husband too. So it's just like a daily little reminders everywhere around you. We even have like $100 bills in our wallet, so we every single time we open it, the $100 bill is there. And we also have like bill on our counter in the kitchen, just so we are always reminded that money is everywhere.
Mm, I love all of those so much. The happy dance is something that I do too. And like I literally just can't even contain myself. Like when I get a new client, I'm like, ah! And like let the excitement spur. It's just like the best feeling ever. And I love bringing joy into all those rituals, and I could see how that is brought in as well. And I forgot, maybe it was one of the first ones that you brought in, but I was just thinking how like gratitude is so huge for it. And I think again, some people can relate to when they are starting their business of only focusing on what they want to change. And there are so many accomplishments that you do have, even if you feel like you're not necessarily making those XYZ and goals, that like you need to constantly celebrate. So that's something that I do, and I encourage my clients as well, is keep a running list of all of your wins, so you're constantly seeing everything that you are progressing forward, because that really is the energy that you want to tap into.
Absolutely. And one thing that I recommend my clients is to book Gap in the Gains. Gap in the Gains, and you can find it on Amazon, but that's specifically explaining like how we are always naturally focusing on the gap, on what is missing. Like I'm here and I want to be here, and you're looking at what is missing, versus I'm here, I was here, let's celebrate this. This is the gain. So focusing on the gain versus the gap. So like every night with my husband, we write down and talk about like the 3 gains of the day. Like what are the biggest 3 gains? And then what are the 3 gains for tomorrow? So you're like projecting what is going to be celebrated tomorrow, but also you're telling your subconscious mind what to work on.
Right.
because our conscious mind, it's only 5%. So when we are running the list and write it down, it's all with your conscious mind. But your subconscious, it's 95%. So when you can go to bed celebrating the wins of the day, and the next day you're telling your mind what you're focusing on, what is your intention, and what do you want to help with, so your subconscious mind can work on it while you're resting.
Hmm. I'm feeling abundant just thinking about all these things. I love it. I the final element of abundance I want to get into is this element of surrender, because it's so hard when we have a specific goal that we have and we're like, I want this so badly, and like that desire is so good to have. How do you surrender to your goals? What does that look like for you?
I love that. And you know what really, really helped me at the beginning of my journey was the book from Gabby Bernstein, The Universe Has Your Back, because she says there in one of her chapters, it's like when you think you surrender, surrender even more.
Mm.
So, for example, like I was mentioning, like for us, in our business, we have a specific goals for the quarters, for the month, and everything. But we are always looking at this or something even better. And we are trusting that we always receive what we are ready for.
Mm.
Because if I would be making the money that I'm making today 5 years ago, I would screw it up. Like you would see me like traveling and eating out and spending everything in Lululemon, like that's me. But now 5 years later, I have my team. I have people that I like, their families depend on us, on income from our business. I want to pay off mortgage of my mom. I retired my mom. She doesn't have to work anymore. So the thing is that you gain a bigger perspective and you're focusing on a bigger picture versus just the instant gratification, right? So I feel like when you can shift into that and surrender, and you just know, I know that I get everything that I'm ready for. I'm open and expansive, and it's coming to me now.
Mm.
And also there's another amazing book, Feel Free to Prosper, from Marilyn. I don't know what's her last name, but again, everything it's on Amazon. Everything what I'm saying, I love Amazon. But Feel Free to Prosper, there are like affirmations and mantras on how to like call in more money. And it's truly about like knowing that you're ready. Like I am ready. I'm ready to increase my income now. Because so very often we are afraid. We are afraid that when we make more money, our family won't like us, or our friends will take advantage of us, or it means more work, and it will mean that you will have less fun. So like really say like and declare it like I'm ready.
Mm. Yeah, I love that so much. It's really that acceptance, because sometimes, we think in order to get to that goal, it's going to look a certain way and we have to be a certain point, and then the universe sends us and we're like, "Hey, why are you throwing me this curveball? Like I'm on track to be with this goal." And truly that's where I see like the clutching happening of like something's going wrong, when rather you're saying like accept that is supposed to happen. That's a part of the plan. This is part of the co-creation. So how can I work with that energy so that I can stay in this abundance and I'm open to receiving however which way it wants to come out? I don't know. But I'm open to being willing to see how this abundance will later play out.
I love that. I feel like the willingness, it's a big part instead of pushing and forcing, because I'm so thankful for so many things that they didn't work out that I thought that I wanted, and then like receiving more abundance in the times that I was ready for it. And I knew how to handle it, and I knew how to invest it, and I knew how to circulate it. So sometimes we think like, oh, I just want this goal and I want this money and this will make me happy. If you don't change in the process, if you don't grow in the process, then it's not going to make you happy. Like been there when I made like multiple 5-figure months and I still felt miserable. So you get to grow in the process.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom today. I think this is so inspiring, and I already feel like in a really high vibe from it. So I know our community will feel the same. And how can our community get to know you and work with you?
So my favorite place to connect, really, it's my Instagram at Petia Kolibova. I know you will put it in the show notes. Nobody can pronounce it. Or my website, petiakolibova.com, and my podcast, Unapologetically Abundant. And also what I can do, Angelica, we do have a one module from my money course that I can send you with 100% discount code. So you have one module on how to learn about how to do the money dates. So I can email it to you so you have it for your audience too, so they can learn how to create the money dates.
Oh, I love that so much. That's perfect. I'll put that link in the show notes. And thank you again for being here. And thank you for our beautiful community for tuning in to this abundance. I hope you're feeling so full leaving this conversation. And I will see you all next week.